Welcome to a new update on Archmage Rises, the MMO of single-player games.
Oh, yeah.
That's the term that Nick just made up before we started recording. What does that even mean?
It means the game is gigantic. That's what it means.
Yeah, I agree with
There's
that.
a ton of stuff to do.
There's a ton of stuff. Okay, so in that perspective, yeah, it's the MMO of single-player RPGs. Can you just add multiplayer, like, at the end? Like, if I gave you, like, a bonus or something? If I, like...
Yeah, we'll just jam it right in.
Just jam it right in. I mean, it's not part of the code base at all right now, but you can,
No.
like, if I just throw a few $1,000 your way, you'll just be like, well, I'll buckle, I'll give in, I'll just add multiplayer.
Sure, Thomas.
Okay. But multiplayer and generational play are the two most requested features of Archmage Rises. Okay, so this week's update, we are going to talk about some of the inspiration. We don't have anything to show you from the game, so we're going to focus in on some of the design and stuff that's been going on. I haven't actually checked in any code in a week. How about you, Nick?
It's been 3 days for me.
No, it's been a week because I checked right before we started recording.
It's been a week for me then.
31st was the last time we checked in code. So we've both been plugging away and are scared to show each other the code we've been building. Mm-hmm. So this is a good week in order to talk about the NPCs and how realistic they're going to be. We're going to do a quick schedule update. And but first, before we get into that, I want to talk about Canada Dry. Okay, this is Canada Dry. And why is it called Canada Dry? Yeah, I don't even know why it's called Canada Dry. Look at that glare on there. That's crazy. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is Canada Dry. Look, this is flavored ginger ale. This is blackberry ginger ale. Okay, pure Canada Dry. It's pretty awesome. But this flavored blackberry stuff is pretty awesome too. And the reason I bring that up is because I want everybody out there to go and buy some Canada Dry. And the reason is that you need to help the Canadian economy because the Canadian dollar has been going down, down, down since I started this project. And you might think, well, how does that really matter? Well, it matters a lot because when I started this project in 2014, the Canadian dollar was about equal to the American dollar. And so when I went and got my contractors in order to help me build this thing, I negotiated all the contracts in US dollars because I was like, well, that makes sense to them. You know, these people live either in the US or they're on the euro. So it makes sense. Nobody knows what a Canadian dollar is worth. It's worth 2.5 chickens and an orange. That's what a Canadian dollar is worth. But nobody knows that internationally, right? That's why we have so much trouble in trade. So I negotiate everything in US dollars, and the Canadian dollar has just gone down, down, down. And if you look at the little graph on the screen, you'll see that I am now at 40%. The Canadian dollar has gone down 40%. That means the rates that I've negotiated are costing me 40% more in order to pay Roger and Nick and Andrew and James and our new animator, Chris. Hi, Chris. I don't think he watches these videos. I don't think he cares enough. That's me. That's not true. I think he does watch the videos. No, I don't think he watches videos, but I think he does care. So anyways, it's really been hurting. And the Canadian dollar is valuated based on our natural resources. And as oil has been going down, like oil's just been cheap for the last 2 years, like crazy cheap. I mean, you don't see that at the pumps, right? It's not like at the pumps that they cut the price in half. No.
Right.
They're buying oil for less than half of what they were the previous year. But you seeing that at the pump? No, you're not seeing it at the pump. But anyway, I digress. So the Canadian dollar is valuated on natural resources like oil and ginger ale. So if people would just go out and buy some ginger ale, then maybe the Canadian dollar will go up and I can afford to pay Nick and Roger and we can make this game.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. So everybody could do their part and have some ginger ale. And I want to hear it. I want to hear it on Facebook. I want to hear it on Steve. I want people writing on the internet. I had some ginger ale, Thomas. I'm doing my part. Okay? So
it's funny that you have multiple flavors. It's like in Japan, they have 100 flavors of Kit Kat or something. That makes a lot of sense that you would have multiple flavors of ginger ale.
Well, this is strictly a promotional limited time thing.
Oh, okay.
But we do have, I've seen raspberry flavored ginger ale, cranberry flavored ginger ale, blackberry flavored ginger ale. Those are the ones I've seen so far. I think there might have been a lime twisty one. I'm not sure about that.
Gross.
It may have been, but yeah. So anyway, it's actually a Coke product. I don't know why they call it Canada Dry. I don't think it comes from Canada.
Uh-oh.
But that ruins my whole little...
Yeah, it sure does.
It comes from Canada, yeah. There's this guy called John 4, and he has a website, and we're gonna go look at his website right now. You and me, Nick. Nick doesn't even know. Nick doesn't even know what we're doing right now. So we're gonna look at John 4's website, okay? And I don't know how to work my computer. Okay, so John 4 runs this website called roleplayingtips.com, and it's a really good website. It's for game masters and basically it's for game masters, dungeon masters, game masters, in order to run really good role-playing games. So he's got all kinds of cool stuff on here, Nick. He's got NPC tracker workbook. Never forget a name or a detail again. That's pretty important when you're trying to make a consistent world with your tabletop buddies. Look at that, 650 Fantasy City encounter hooks. Okay, that's awesome. 5-room dungeon designs. Some info for game masters. I don't know what that is. Look at this. He's got a campaign logger. He's got tips for faster combat, and he's got NPC essentials. And that's what we want to zero in on, is his NPC essentials, because he's got this cool book that teaches you about NPCs, and how to make them really good at the gaming table. And so he wrote this book. So the core of Archmage Rises is your interaction with the NPCs in the game, with the other characters. And I really want people to feel like these people are real. And so I've spent a lot of time trying to understand, how does that happen? How does that happen at the tabletop, that these NPCs feel real to the other players, right? It's just a figment of the GM's imagination. So if we can figure that out, and we can bottle it, we could be millionaires. Millionaires, Nick. Millionaires. And then we can afford to buy Canada Dry and fix the Canadian economy. So I really dove into John's stuff, and so this is just a quick little excerpt of his book here. And you see here, just by looking at the table of contents, he's got 60 pages talking about, well, actually, the tables start at basically page 40. Okay, so it's got 40 pages talking about, like, how do you make interesting NPCs that the player cares about at the gaming table session after session, that they're quirky, they're interesting, they lead to good adventures, all that stuff. So I read all that stuff, and I've been going through the tables and just trying to distill all this wonderful information and bring it down into something that we can use for Archmage Rises. And so, what does that all mean? What that means is, we're going to have some pretty awesome NPCs, and I've been working for the last couple of weeks on that. It's been taking way longer than I thought it was going to. I scheduled 2 weeks for it. I think I'm in my 4th week. I think I have 4 more weeks to go. I don't even know how long it's going to take me. The thing that sucks about making something that nobody's ever done before is it's really hard to figure out how to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like, there should be like a website, like thingsneverdonebefore.com, and you can like type in what you want to do, and it just tells you like how to do it. Like kind of like the patent database, right? Like somebody's already dreamed up how to do it. They just didn't bother doing it. Mm-hmm. That would be handy. But so what do we do with all this stuff? Well, the first thing is I really wanted these NPCs to feel like real people. And so we base them on real personalities. And so when I say real personalities, there's this pretty awesome website called 16personalities.com. 74 million people have taken personality tests from here.
Wow.
And these guys have basically their background is in psychology, obviously, and working with the Big Five called Ocean, but also the Myers-Briggs Carl Jung, the 4-letter thing as well, like the INTJ or whatever the other letters are. So anyways, they take all that stuff, they've put it all together, smushed it all together, they shook it around, they put it in a blender, and they popped out their stuff. And so they have these personality types, and they have really cool low poly art. And I'm not sure why a personality site needs low poly art. Maybe it just makes it run faster over the internet. But anyways, pretty cool website. And so you go in, you can learn about these people and what they think. Oh, and there's my score results right there. So there you go. I'm an INTJ. So the reason this is important is because we can go in and we can learn things about how NPCs should work based on their personality types. So, for instance, they have done a study here, I think, therefore I'm glum, and based on the personality types, their introverts, 43% were substantially more likely to agree that they are generally glum all the time. In general, your mood is more often glum than pleasant. 43% of introverts said yes. Also, the turbulent types, 41% said yes. So you can see how people's... there's lots of things coming out of your personality type that we see coming out in the real world. And so I thought, wow, that'd be really good to base our NPCs on this real stuff, real science. And I know, Nick, you thought that was pretty cool when we first started talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You're a good wingman there, Nick. There we go. So I wanted to base it on these personalities. Now, knowing that somebody is introverted or extroverted, that is helpful. But knowing whether they are a feeler or a thinker, it becomes harder when you're coding the game in order to, like, is this person going to agree to a particular negotiation tactic because they are a sensor instead of a thinker? Like, it's like it was hard to translate that. And so what I did was I went back to instead of the aggregate that they put together for the personality types, actually going behind the aggregates of, like, why do they say that someone is a sensor, someone is a feeler, someone is a judger, and what are the attributes or values that make those things up? Like, basically, if you're taking the test, what things are you scoring high on in order to end up in that particular kind of category? And so when I went and did that, I took the 4 values and pulled them apart into now currently 13 values. And so those 13 values of the personality make up every NPC in the game. And because they're kind of on a continuum, right? So imagine, for instance, social, like social outgoing kind of thing versus reserved, like more reserved, less kind of outgoing in terms of their nature. So you put that kind of on a continuum. There's like 20 values that you can have on whether you're a 0, which is totally reserved, or 20, which is totally social. So if you take those 13 values and you do 20... you take those 13 attributes and you have 20 values across them. That means that we will have at least 203 trillion different NPCs that are possible in the game of Archmage Rises. Isn't that awesome?
That is pretty cool. I assume that's not taking into account the way they look either. That's just a different personality, basically all their attributes. Yeah.
That it's scoring them on those personality attributes. So just to give you an example of some of those personality attributes, how much they like novelty, like newish things versus familiar things, how much of an abstract thinker they are versus a concrete thinker, how flexible they are versus structured. Those values actually have mechanical value within the game. Once I start testing against those things, it started to make a lot more sense why they would respond in certain ways. So my goal with all this is to create an NPC that's sitting there, like, right in front of you. And oh, do you need to get that, Nick?
No.
Are we interrupting you? So having an NPC right there in front of you, and you say something to them, you do something to them, and they react realistically. That NPC is going to pass the Turing test. I guarantee it.
I hope so. I
can't.
I want to play that.
I can't guarantee that. That part's not important. Now I'm getting crazy like Chris Crawford, and nobody should be that crazy. So anyway, so yeah, 203 trillion different possible NPCs that the players can interact with. And that way we can guarantee no game is the same. And when they're reacting consistently with their personality, I think it's going to drive a lot of really interesting gameplay and just personal gamer stories, right? This whole game is about your story in a fantasy world, and the people that you choose to bring along, the people that you choose to fight against. It's all up to you. And so I think this is going to be some great grounding for the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if you're learning something about somebody and you find out that he likes to fish, and then you also find out that maybe if he likes to fish, he likes to hunt, and then the way that he reacts to everything is consistent with that personality. I think that'll be really interesting, especially when you're trying to get to know them.
Yeah. So these personalities are going to drive things like their interests. So if you're a very reserved person who's very structured in thought, you're probably not going to be a bard or someone who dabbles in singing or something like that.
Right.
But there is some fudge factor in there because in real life, when you encounter someone, they do weird things. So for instance, I really like sitting at home and never leaving the house. Do you know that feeling, Nick?
I do.
Nick never leaves the house either. So I really enjoy doing that. But one of my friends invited me to go on a canoe trip, a men's canoe trip for 3 days. Some portaging and whatever, and camping out in the middle of the wilderness and stuff. No cell phones, no Wi-Fi, no electronics of any kind. Actually, I brought my Kindle. Shh. Don't tell them I brought my Kindle. So that's like really weird and really out of character for me to go and do that. But, I thought I'd give it a try and see what it was like. And actually did it twice because it was pretty good the first time. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm done here. I don't need to ever do this again. But that's what I mean by having kind of a fudge factor as well, because people are just at the end of the day, they're unpredictable. And that's why I think people watch these videos, because they have no idea what we're going to say or what we're doing with this game. And so that yeah, just being a little bit unpredictable is built into it. But in general, people behave according to their personality types, and there's a fair expectation there. So anyway, you have these people, and they have these personality types, but there's this whole other layer that I've been working on just specifically in this past week, and that was people now have jobs. And what I mean by that is before, they used to just have like a text string just saying like what their job was. That's not good enough to really sell this like you're there, they're there kind of thing. And so they have jobs, and those jobs have certain responsibilities, and they have certain hours, and they have certain days off. So if you want to go hunting with someone, they'll say, well, I'm available on Thursday, I'm available on Sunday, because that's the next time that they have availability in their schedule. The next thing is they can have pets. So different people, again, it's a little personality type driven. They can have pets, and you'll see their pets and be able to have a little bit of interaction with the pets and the people. They have activities that they do while they're working. When you go to their home, when you go to their place of work, they actually move around between their home and the place of work. And they can move to other towns. There's like a lot of things that are now happening with these people, and they can like travel different locations. They can go shopping. There's just all kinds of stuff going on in the simulator. So let's really kind of break that down, make that concrete for people, because they haven't seen any of the code, and they're like, what does all this mean? So the production of a building, say like a mine, is dependent upon the workers that are there. So when the mine gets built, it creates jobs for a certain number of people, and it recruits from the township people that don't have any jobs assigned yet. It recruits from them, and then it scores them based on how good they are, so that the best matching people end up there. Now, if you're really low on people, then you end up with the singing flighty airhead who should have been an actor, but there's no theater in the town, and they end up mining. So anyway, you end up with them as a miner. Now, every time they go to work, they do their work, and the mine produces metal. So that's great. So now the town has metal, and then that metal helps, it gets sold off to other towns through traders, and that helps the economy of that particular town. Now, what happens if something interrupts that? If that person dies, either of natural causes or by the player, then the mine has one less worker. So production goes down slightly until they're able to recruit someone else. So that's like a small little thing. But what if there's something else going on that affects everybody's ability to get to the mine? Like say there's a cave-in or caused by the player or random occurrence, or there's a peasant revolt going on and the people simply can't get from their houses to the mine, then production goes down. That affects the economy. Now, if the economy goes down, then that can cause people to lose their jobs. And so when you don't have a job, when one of the NPCs doesn't have a job for a while, they get a new job. Do you know what that job is, Nick?
Begging or
beggar.
Drinking, maybe?
That's right. They get a new job, beggar. So if they can't find any other job, then they get a new job, a beggar. And so when you're in the town and you see beggars and they're approaching you, like that gives you an indication of how the economy is here. And then if they're a beggar for a long period of time, then they die because they don't have any money to eat and those kinds of things. Or they leave town due to unemployment and they move to some other town. So that town, maybe they can get a job there, maybe they can't, and then things continue from there. So I don't know. I think that's a really cool role-playing game.
I agree.
So we've just never seen this kind of thing before. And, I know like in Fable, for instance, Peter Molyneux was talking about how, you can't see it necessarily, but the little NPCs, they wake up in their beds and they shuffle off to work in the fields or whatever it is. The camera isn't showing it because the camera's focused on you or whatever, but like these things are like happening in the background and stuff. And so they have like a simple kind of schedule that the people go through. I'm not putting down it was probably hard to do or anything. I'm just saying in terms of the compared to real life complexity, like it's extremely simple. Like they get up, they go, they do their one thing, and then they go back to bed. So I was just thinking about, man, if I had to like animate all that of the person just getting out of bed, like there's a separate animation you have to figure out, like, are they done getting out of bed? Okay, now they're out of bed. Okay, now they have to do pathfinding from their bed to the kitchen or directly to work, and you have to pathfind them all the way there, and then once they're there, there's just like so much work in order to do this little simple thing, right? So we got rid of all that stuff so that we could do this deep stuff, this Dwarf Fortress-y type deep stuff. So you end up with somebody who has a pet that just goes for a hike on their day off in nature and ends up getting captured by a goblin. Like that kind of stuff can happen in the simulated world because we're not putting all of our energy and resources into just trying to show these things happen. But we still have... Yep, go ahead.
There's a large population of people, right? And then not everybody is going to have necessarily a job. Does that mean everybody becomes a beggar? So we got like a town with like 90% beggars running around?
Yeah, so the simulator has to have some level of abstraction. Like at some point, it becomes ridiculous. I mean, I was coding the number of squares of toilet paper that they use and trying to tie that back to personality type. And I was like, this is too far. Like, I think I've gone too far, right? So, so yeah, that's a good example of, so you have, say, a theater, and then you have actors that work in that particular theater, and then they put on the shows. But I've kind of abstracted away that there's like understudies, apprentices, and that kind of thing. Like you can't see them or talk to them in the theater. Like you could talk to the actors that are in the theater. Same thing with the blacksmith. He has an apprentice, like whatever. Like they're not there. The way that you can interact with those people is if they are in one of the other buildings, like they're shopping at the market or they're at the inn having a drink or something like that. You'll see like this person and they're an apprentice or something. There's like all these other jobs of carters and drovers and shinglers and cobblers and like all kinds of medieval tasks and stuff. We're not going to put all those things in because frankly it's like not fun at that kind of level. So yeah, there is a point where we just draw the line, bam, and say the simulator stops here, and then the rest is just abstracted away. Right,
that makes sense. We do have to finish this game after all.
But
did I lose you?
No, but I like working on it. and I like doing these update videos with you, Nick.
Well, okay, let's do it forever then, Thomas.
I just want to do it forever. And we haven't got a lot of pre-orders, but they keep coming in, and like, why don't we just do this forever? Okay,
I'm sold.
Oh yeah, we have a due date. We should probably work towards that. So January 24th, 2018, we want to be feature complete. And how are we doing against that, Nick?
We're a little bit behind, but not by much. So it feels like we're doing good so far.
I don't think you've looked at the schedule at all. You're at least a week behind on the current task.
All right, well then we're a week behind. That doesn't seem like much. We got catch-up weeks. We can do it. Yeah,
that's right. We just came off of a catch-up week, and we're still behind. It's hard to calculate this point. Until I'm finished with the NPC stuff, I won't know exactly how far behind I am. But, when I wake up in the morning, I have to make a decision as to what am I going to do today? Am I going to just cut this off right here and go work on the next task, or finish this thing out? And these NPCs, like, really feeling real to you, to me, to the people watching this, that's the game. That's like the most important thing. And so I'm just going to do whatever it takes in order to make that happen.
Not for me, Thomas. I'm just going to sit in my mage tower as a little hermit and save up all my money. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good thing your wife is so social, and she has people coming over all the time, and that at least gives you someone to talk to.
Yeah, these people are going to be really realistic when I burn their houses down and enslave them into my tower of horrors.
That's right. Yeah, it's taken me a while to do this NPC stuff. It's never been done before. I think it's really cool, and it's worth it. If I was smarter, it would go faster, but I think I'm the only person dumb enough to make this kind of game. So sorry, everybody, you're stuck with me and Nick making this, because we're just too dumb not to try. If we were smarter, we would have abandoned the project. So there we go. So I think that concludes our update. We have some other really interesting things, actually, to just kind of tease out. So you've been working on something that's pretty cool right now, Nick. What is it?
I call it the bird's eye view, but basically it's a
You're not in charge of marketing.
What's that?
You're so not in charge of marketing.
No. But I couldn't come up with another better name, so maybe somebody else does. But anyway, basically it's it allows you to see the town, and basically makes every town unique. So before we had a screen where you go in, it would show kind of a close-up view of like a town square or that kind of thing. But now we're actually showing like a close-in view of the town. So that'll show, mountains in the background, the buildings that are there. Helps to show, like what Thomas has said before, we want to show the simulation more. So the towns will look unique and they'll look right. So I think it's pretty cool. The tech is just about done, and we're just working on getting a bunch of art in there. So I'm sure as soon as we get the rest of the art in, we will be excited to show it to you.
Yeah. Hopefully we can show something next week. That would be good. So the style that we're going for is very much what you see in role-playing books, and I think that art style will be immediately familiar to tabletop people. And for those who don't play tabletop, just play computer role-playing games, it'll be unique. It doesn't look like anything else that I've seen in any other game. So I think it'll be really cool. We also are working on a new UI. This is our third iteration of the UI, and there's just a bunch of things we've been trying to implement, and rather than trying to just shove them on top of the existing UI, it's time to go back and redo the whole thing. So Roger's been working on that this week, and we also have to do a test. You didn't get to it yet this week because you're still working on town. That's how I know for sure that we're delayed, because we're trying to get the new combat animations in, because Chris has given us a bunch of animations to try out with the Goblin, and once we get those test animations in, we can see what that all means, and we can give him better direction about what we need, and he can go ahead and do the animating on the rest of the creatures. So
awesome.
Lots of stuff in the works, lots of new things coming. Basically, by the time this game's done, nobody's going to recognize it because it's gone through all these iterations. They'll be like, oh, that's what I pre-ordered? Wow, this game's a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
We keep adding features, right? So there's more things to show in the UI, like redesigning the the timeline and everything. Yeah. So it's not like it's a lot of work technically, because we can just move things around, but we do need to redesign it so everything fits, works well, and it's not in your way.
Yeah, one example is with the NPCs. We want to be able to do something with an NPC. Like in Grand Theft Auto, you wanted to go on a date with somebody, you would drive, pick them up, take them to a bowling alley or a place to play darts or something like that, and then you take them back. Now, I'm not really trying to recreate all that, but that concept of getting together and traveling together to some place. So you gave the example earlier of hunting, like, hey, let's go hunting. And they're like, okay, my day off is on Saturday. And you're like, okay, let's go hunting on Saturday. Like, to go and meet that person and you are traveling together and then maybe you get attacked. That becomes interesting to me, right? And so the UI needs to show some way, like, you're not alone, somebody's traveling with you, and like, who is that person? And then you get into combat. Again, the UI has to show there's the person and they're, you know, being hurt. You need to protect them or something like that. That actually creates questions about, can you, like the magic shield, normally you can only cast that on yourself. You can cast it on the other person too. So it's like shield them, shield me, and that uses up your action points. All kinds of interesting stuff coming out of this.
No, Thomas, you cannot.
You can't shield them? Okay, they just die.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just push them to the front, you run the other way, and you're like, hey, great hunting trip.
Right, they become the shield.
Well, when I went on that canoe trip, I knew that I didn't have to outrun a bear, I just had to outrun Scott.
That's right.
Okay, so that's what's coming up next week and beyond, and yeah, we're working hard to bring 203 trillion possible NPCs to life, so we're going to get back to it.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, bye.